We're live at Expert35. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia, and as promised, experts from 35 different industries talking about the challenges, the hardships, and the opportunities. Well, today we're going to be talking about new construction, home building, the perfect design, how that design is changing. Man, COVID's changed a lot of things, and now we're spending a lot of time in these dwellings. And so nobody better to bring to the show than Steve, a custom home builder. Steve, thanks for being on the show today.
Oh, you're welcome. Just to clarify, custom home designer, Gabe.
Oh, wait, sorry, designer. Well, let's just build it anyways, because you can get us to build it. And without the design, it's, you're just throwing darts, right?
Yeah, I'm typically the first guy on the food chain. When somebody decides they want to build a new custom home and they get the checkbook out, I'm typically the first guy on the food chain because it always starts, with the design. They can't really get anywhere until they figure out that design.
Perfect. Text Expert35 to follow us on Expert35, learn more about how to get on the show. And if you want to learn more about Steve and you want to get a home designed, text Expert57. Yes, I said I promised 35 experts, but we're at 57 because there's just so many conversations to talk about. And really, Steve, everything we've been talking about offline, I know we're going to have questions. I know people want to know, hey, should I get rid of this? Should I put a tub? Should I do all these things that they want to do? Because now, I'm sure people are just seeing all those little flaws in the house they have. How can they build that dream home? But before we jump into it, tell us, how did you get into this? Tell us a little bit about 30 plus years.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate at a young age. I got a job, minimum wage job, working for a home designer, and my job was running blueprints. So, I had no idea what I was doing other than running paper through a machine. And after working there for a while and getting to know the owner of the company, he asked me one day if I was interested in drafting, and I thought, I really never thought about it, but I was at an age, I was just out of high school and really not sure what I wanted to do, but I looked at him as a successful guy, and I thought, man, I'm gonna give this a shot. So I did, and I would say that was a pivotal part or change in my life. I would hope that if I went a different direction, I would be successful doing something else, but I can't think of anything else I would rather do. So I got into drafting and design at a really young age and liked it, and you just couldn't hold me back. So once I got started, I launched into designing custom homes pretty quick. So I was, actually did my first project when I was 20 with the help of my college professor, and my boss helped me out. And I actually did a project when I was 20 years old, a small project, but I did it. And I started getting a little waiting list after that. And by the time I was 24, I was completely self-employed. And I just turned 51 in February. So a little over 30 years that I've been designing custom homes.
And that's such a great, inspirational story to hear, right? I started at 23 as well. So it was and I wasn't self-employed. I was fully employed, right. And I became unemployed. Yeah. And it was kind of like a big shift. But sometimes those are the best things. You burn your boat, and now you're out there. You build your own your new vector. And yeah. Man, I was showing some of the pictures of things that you've done, but what everybody's mind is well, what's changing? With us spending so much time, what do you think? What are you seeing, and what do you think is going to be the next phase of the homes that you're going to be building?
Yeah, so I think so I think everybody is kind of self-analyzing, where they live and how they live, obviously because they're in their homes more than they ever probably have been in their whole life. People that have, regular type office jobs, they're gone majority of the week. So their home is where they spend their evenings and weekends. So now if they're there all the time, especially working from home, people are really starting to analyze, how do I live and what's important to me and what's not important to me. So, and you can tell by, some of the companies online that sell products for homes, they're killing it. People are just looking for things that they can do to enhance their own home space. So I would say that that's probably different. We haven't taken on a lot of new clients since COVID, so I don't have the firsthand data from new clients. Things are picking back up, but it got obviously pretty slow during COVID because we just really couldn't meet with these new clients. But I think that working from home is going to obviously be a big thing. How do we use that space? We actually started trending away from home offices. over several years. People realized that that was really not, they really weren't doing much work in there. It was just extra space. So that was starting to go away. I have a feeling that's going to start coming back. I think it's going to look different than it did before. You know, before it was the fancy room and off the foyer. But I don't think that that's where people are going to want to work if they're actually working from home. I think working at home is going to be kind of creating a private space, especially if you have to do a lot of what I'm doing now, which is Zoom meetings, and I know a lot of other people are too. You need a quiet space. You need a background that's appealing. You need to be able to, not hear the kids screaming in the background, and
Right.
so I think that creating that little home, like kind of like what I've done here, you can kind of see behind me. This was, I worked in this room before COVID, but it didn't look like this because I wasn't on Zoom. I basically was just sitting at a computer. Now this is my studio. So when I present plans, I mean, on this I have a monitor over here. I don't think it's off the screen, but that's where I do my Zoom meeting, and then I'm doing my drafting here. I got my entertainment on the other side of the room. I've got my background, so I really created this home studio so that whenever I am interacting with my clients on Zoom, they're kind of getting an experience. And I always like to give I'm designing people's homes, but I always wanted to give them an experience, and so I'm doing everything I can to kind of keep that experience going for them.
Jennifer's got a great question. Jennifer's asking, like, what trends are on the way out? So, what was things that
Yeah.
you were considering, and now what do you think is out?
Yeah, so I can't speak to the new trends just from COVID because it's just too
Sure.
new. But what was really has been going out for several years is the formal spaces. First of all, the formal living rooms have really been gone for years. I can't remember the last time I designed a house with a formal living room, but the formal dining rooms are going away. And what people are doing is, typically you would have the formal dining room and then you would have the small breakfast nook. Well, people spend all their time in the small breakfast nook. So it really didn't make sense. You're crammed into a small space. Typically, it's by the back door. You're going to have to pull your chair in to go in and out of the back door. And then you have this
Right.
nice formal space up in the front that nobody wants to sit in. I mean, if you have people over for the holidays that you only see once or twice a year, they don't want to be stuck up there in the dining room separated from everybody. So it's just, they didn't work. So what's happened is the breakfast room has gotten larger. So that's at the part of the house where you're entertaining. It's closer to the kitchen. It's closer to the back porch. If you have an outdoor, space that you use and a pool, that's where people really want to be when they come to your house anyway. So that's a trend. So typically we'll have a table that could seat 8 to 10 people, where you would traditionally see the breakfast room, and then the formal dining room goes away. And what I found is most people don't even realize that the house doesn't have a formal dining room. They come in, they go through the foyer, it opens up into a nice space. They see a
Right.
table, and they don't even. If somebody says, "Hey, did you like their dining room?" They might say, "Oh yeah, it was nice." They didn't even have one, So I think that's definitely something. Other trends, people love their closet space. When I look at a plan and I calculate the square footage of the master bedroom, the bedroom square footage, and then I calculate the footage of the bathroom and the closet. The bathroom and the closet is a lot of times as big or bigger than the bedroom. People are not putting all that furniture in their bedroom. They're doing built-ins in the closet. So when you go in a bedroom, it's a king-size bed, nightstands, and maybe a chair in the corner. And if they have a TV, it's mounted on the wall. There's no furniture because you don't need the space for components anymore. But then you walk into the closet, and now you have big built-in dressers and lots of storage space. So basically, that square footage went out of the bedroom and it went into the closet. I think it works better anyway when you're getting, dressed in your bathroom to be able to go in and out of your closet from the bathroom versus walking out of the bathroom door around the bed. You fumbling around in the dark if your spouse is still in bed trying to find a pair of socks. It just doesn't make sense. When you're in your bathroom getting dressed, I design homes so that the bathroom and the closet just kind of blend together. And we try to keep the flooring the same. A lot of times there's not even a door between the two spaces. So we really combine those two rooms together. So you don't have to feel like I'm distinctly walking out of the bathroom, now I'm walking into the closet. It all just flows together.
I've got a great question from Dana. She wants to know, what are some of the popular color schemes for kitchens? Like what happened in that design
Yeah,
style?
so that kind of gets into the interior design side of the business, and that's certainly Shannon's world. But I've noticed that she's been doing a lot of kitchens with some, pretty substantial contrast. Like for instance, in the picture on the screen now, that center area above the range, that might be a really dark color, and to kind of make it pop. And then it's not new, but people still like the idea of sometimes making the countertop on the island different than the countertop around the rest of the kitchen, just to kind of break it up a little bit. Most of our clients over the last few years have been trending towards modern. So the cabinets are, real simple in design. That's kind of a shaker style in that picture, but just a flat panel cabinet. I'm just seeing simpler, not a lot of trim, and certainly not crown molding in very many of the homes that we design. So I would say even on that picture that you're looking at, that one was from several years ago. I would think if we were designing that house today, it would probably look a little bit different in the sense that it would just be a little bit simpler. But that's really what I'm seeing when it gets into the colors. The backsplash and the countertops and the cabinets. That's where as a design firm that has a designer doing the actual plans and then somebody working with the interior. That's where I think we're really strong because if I was building a house for myself, I would hire my partner to do the interior design and help me out with that. I'm really good at establishing the spaces, the scale, the size of the room, the ceiling heights, the traffic patterns. That's really where my expertise is. Picking the finishes and the colors, I would struggle with that. I would need help, and because I don't know it well enough to be bold enough to really pick those colors. So I just kind of tend to neutrals and kind of keeping it simple. So you need somebody that can
Right.
really kind of. I don't. Sometimes when you say take you out of your comfort zone, people that scares them a little bit. But you really need to have somebody that really can show you some things that you may have never even considered, and you may end up realizing that was the best decision that you made by really listening to somebody that knows what they're doing, and they have to get to know you obviously to be able to do that. And that's kind of part of what we do is really get to know our clients so that Shannon knows them better than they know themselves sometimes when it comes to interior features.
Right. Here's a great question from Jennifer, especially with the whole COVID and staying at home. Are you seeing people with two offices now? And we just lost him, so let's see if we can get him back in here. But yeah, we've been talking. We talked offline about, and Jennifer, you got questions about, does the pool add value? Like, where's the bang for the buck? And he actually was telling me that a lot of what he does is actually on the design side. So we probably need to talk more to like a realtor or somebody that's more in the valuation of the business to talk more about how that works and bringing on the value of the property. Hey, he's back.
Yeah, yeah.
I was answering Jennifer's question. She wanted a question about like what the pools add value, and I was kind of telling her what we said offline, that that's more of like a realtor would be more, the right person to talk to. That you're more in the design and like the functionality. But her question now is, do you have homes with two offices? Are you seeing that trend now?
Yeah, so I would say it's rare, but we do an area that we call a resource center, and it's really worked out well. So instead of having the big office like we were talking about a minute ago at the front door,
Mm-hmm.
people found that they really don't need that because they're, for one, their computers are a laptop now. They're not a desktop. They don't have the CMU that they have to CPU under the desk, and
Right.
so they don't need all of that space, but they still need a place for their electronics to land. So at night, you need to charge your iPad or your laptop. You still have a printer. You still have some basic supplies. So we do this little area that could be behind some barn doors or a sliding door. And when you open it, it's basically a desk and a chair and a filing cabinet, and then those basic things that you need. So that's common. So we have done several homes where somebody does technically work from home all day, and they do need a home office, but then the other spouse, needs kind of that resource center area. So I wouldn't say that it's common, but it does happen. Some people want some spaces for their kids. We'll call it a kid study.
Well, and now with all these Zooms, right? I would imagine
Yeah.
that having like a dedicated like door you can close. So I love the idea that it just opens and takes up the space now functional. But if you have a couple of kids and they all have classes and they're going back to school, I'm sure there will be some sort of maybe not a bullpen, but there'll be definitely ideas to like get the kids spread out so they're not all on top of each other, right?
Yeah, and that's a great point because I think at some point kids will go back to school, but there are a lot of kids that will not ever go back to school. I think that some people are going to find that online school may be a better experience for their kid, especially if a kid struggled in school, from some social issues. If they had issues with being bullied or something like that. This may be they may find that this is a better fit for them to learn. And if that's the case, they're in school, not all day, but a lot of the day, then yeah, they need the same thing that we need as adults, to conduct their day. They need their own space. They need to have it quiet. They need to be able to concentrate. So I think that as a designer, that's obviously a temporary thing. So I think one of the challenges that I have as a designer, anytime somebody needs a space like that we know is a temporary space, we design it in a way that room transitions into something else. Just like, for instance, let's say off of the main kitchen area, we had a resource center and it had some barn doors on it. And, that was somebody's workspace, whether it be for the kid or the parent or an adult. Over time, that area may turn into a wet bar. We may put plumbing. We may put plumbing in the wall so that you could easily add a bar sink and transition that, because when the kids are grown, now all of a sudden you have this area over there. You're looking at it thinking, we don't use it. What could we do with that? Well, maybe it's not a wet bar, but maybe it's something else. So as a designer, when somebody tells me that they're going to stay in their house forever, I say, okay, well, we need your house to work for you. Obviously, the day that you move into it, but we need it to work for you the day that you move out of it when they're carrying you out. So there's a lot of things that are going to happen between now and then. So let's kind of talk about that. Let's talk about, the kids grow up, they, hopefully they fly out of the nest, they start families. Now all of a sudden grandkids are introduced to this. How are we going to do that? Now there's a lot of guessing that we're doing, but we're just kind of playing out different scenarios. And I think sometimes people get locked into today. If I have a client that we're designing their house and they're talking about the accommodations for their kids, well, say their kids are 15 and 17, and we're starting to design. It's going to be a year and a half before they move into the house.
Right.
Thinking, okay, you're about to go through some major life changes, major family changes. Let's don't talk about what's going to be perfect for your family the day you move into it. Let's talk about what's going to be perfect for your family, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
Right. Well, Greg has a great question, right? Do you see like the in-law suites are becoming more popular? I mean, I'm hearing plenty of people where their parents, they don't want to go to home. This whole COVID thing is kind of shaking things up.
Yeah.
They don't want to live in a different city either.
Yeah.
So, do you think that that's going to be an opportunity, something we're starting to see more?
Yes, and that was already happening. And I think that's going to happen more. But absolutely, yes, people are looking for ways to let their aging parents move in with them. And what I suggest on that when I'm designing a home is, look, I know you love your parents and I know they love you, but you need your own space. They need their own space. You want to be close enough to be able to help them, but you don't want to be down the hall from them. You don't want to go back to feeling, like a kid when you have to walk past each other's bedrooms to get to your bedroom. That's just a little bit too close. Would certainly be too close for comfort for me. And so what we try to do is give the parents, and they want their independence and most of the time too, give them their space. If they can have their own entry and exit in and out of the house, that's ideal. So they can kind of come and go and you don't feel like you're kind of keeping tabs on each other, but you're close enough to where if you need each other, you're there within just a couple of minutes. So that's really what we try to do is make it to where it's a comfortable situation. And sometimes parents are a little reluctant when the kids are talking about, hey, you should maybe just come live with us. But if you can give them a space where they still feel like they have their independence, I think they're a lot more apt to signing on to that deal.
Right. We got a great question from Kim. She's asking, is there a feature that you love or recommend, and people, it's like kind of surprises them? And it's maybe this new workstation area is one of them, but what else do you
Yeah,
recommend?
so definitely that area that we call the resource center. That's one that a lot of people haven't thought of. Most people have figured out what we call the drop zone now. That was something that years ago was a big thing. Just having a place to come in and put your shoes and hang up a coat. Typically, the stuff that would end up on the kitchen island or hanging on the back of a chair in the dining room, because people didn't know what to do with it, so they just put it somewhere. Actually finding a space for those items. But I would say the biggest thing that we started doing, and it really kind of came up when we stopped doing the formal dining rooms. People would say, "Well, we don't want a formal dining room, but we want a butler's pantry." And I'm thinking, okay, well, typically a butler's pantry is between the kitchen and the dining room. If we don't have a dining room, then it's not a butler's pantry. So we came up with an area we call the service pantry, and it's really just a area off of the kitchen that just basically extends your kitchen. There's two things that really made that work well. One is the fact that we don't have a dining room, so we needed to kind of change the thought process there. But the other thing is on these open concept kitchens, we don't have walls. So in an older home, you would have at least three, sometimes four walls in a kitchen. Now we have two. So what happens is by the time you put in the 48-inch refrigerator and the 48-inch range, and you get your appliances in, you really don't have much space for cabinets. So the service
Right.
pantry is kind of a nook off of the kitchen, and it's a great place for small appliances. If you have a can opener or a juicer or a mixer, you put that in the service pantry. Because, well, for one, you still need these things and you want them easily accessible, but you don't want them sitting out on the main part of your kitchen cabinet because it's clutter. Because these homes, the kitchen becomes a focal point. You walk into the house in this open concepts, the first thing you look at is the kitchen. Well,
Right.
if you have a bunch of clutter on your counters, that's the first impression of your house is a cluttered up kitchen. So it's a way of keeping the kitchen really functional, but also keeping it very appealing. So I would say that service pantry is probably the biggest thing that we do. Like, for instance, when I have clients, I don't ask them if they want a service pantry. I just design one in. And I can't remember anybody ever telling me, yeah, we just don't think we.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had anybody say, yeah, I don't think we need that. I don't think that's going
Yeah.
to work for our family. I've never had anybody ask me to take it out. So now I don't ask people, hey, do you want a service pantry? I just design it in. And if for
Yeah.
whatever reason somebody ever said, we don't want that, then I'll design it out.
Yeah.
But it hasn't happened yet.
Great answer. So Kim, to answer your question, is he doesn't recommend it; he just does it.
Yeah, yeah, and some things, yeah, and that gets back to on that's kind of a unique thing. It's rare that I would just do something like that, but the other part of what we put into a house is really just getting to know the client. We've had a couple of consultation meetings with them, and then when they hire us, we spend about 3 hours with them. And we feel like we kind of know these people. We know about their family structure. We know about their pets. We know about their hobbies, their short-term, plans for their house, their long-term. We
Right.
know what they do for a living. There's just those type of things. I had a
And that's
guy one time.
what made your business so powerful, right? Like, it's really a referral business. And so a lot of people are asking, like, you know what? Yes, like I'm spending a lot of time on my house. I've been in this house. I want to build a new home. So they're gonna go with a designer.
Yeah,
My favorite part of the show, if there's three things that they should do to be able to find a designer and like really design their perfect home, what should those be? Go.
yeah. I would say that if you're going to build a new home and have it custom designed, you really need to kind of analyze your financial situation. Homes are expensive, and things always cost more than what we want them to cost and expect them to cost. So I would say kind of analyze where you are financially, and sometimes it's not about how much can you spend, it's how much do you want to spend. If you have other interest in life like traveling and fine dining, you just really want to figure out what is a good budget for your new home. So if you come in and you don't really know what your budget is, it's really hard to help you because we can't design a home until we know, what our target is from a budget. So I would say that was the first thing. Next thing is once you kind of get going in the process, whether you hire me or hire somebody else, you really need to do your homework and find somebody that is going to take the time to get to know you and really immerse themselves in your project to make sure that the house that that you get is going to work for you. Most of our clients tell us they're planning on staying very long term, maybe not always for the rest of their life, but they're going to be there for a while. You really want to get this right. You don't want to go through this again. You want to make sure it's right. So, really do your homework and, get referrals, talk to people, and make sure you're making the right decision on who designs it. And then that just kind of flows right into who builds it. Hopefully, if you pick a designer that you really trust, they can refer you to a builder that they would feel comfortable with. But even with that, you need to look for other referrals on that to make sure that you pick the right person. The other one, I'm not sure if I have the third. There's several things, but I guess one thing I think that is a struggle in a lot of this is not so much the house, but where you put the house.
Oh yeah.
When you're moving to another part of town, you don't know traffic patterns. You don't know where you're going to be buying your groceries, and
Right.
so I think that's a big decision. I know when I was younger and I lived in apartments and stuff, one thing that I would do if I'm considering moving somewhere, you're typically there in the middle of the day. You're looking at floor plans, looking at the pool and the gym. Okay, it's all great. What's it like at 7:30 in the morning? What's it like at 6 p.m.
What's
or
your
8
commute
p.m.?
like? What's the kids' school like? I mean,
Yeah.
you can bring in a specialist, right? Like a real estate
Yeah.
specialist or someone, but actually talk to
Yeah.
your neighbor. I love your 3 points, but make sure you got a budget.
Yeah.
Get referrals from builders because they'll refer the designer, but then get the designer to refer your clients, right? Get a list and call those people because if I think earlier offline you're saying, hey, they're just telling you to do a drive-by, look how pretty my house is. That's not somebody you should trust. Like, let them talk to the person that's living in their house.
Yeah.
And they should have built the house within the last. You don't want to have somebody that hasn't built, designed a house in 4 or 5 years, right? You want somebody that's got a couple of irons going and is active, up to date, licensed, the whole thing.
Yeah. I would say, from a designer and the builder, if you're looking for referrals, if they can't give you names and make introductions to past clients, then that's a sign, because past clients that are happy, they want to help you. They want to see you get that new project, and they're proud of their house. And usually they want to show it off. So, everybody's different. Some people, are more private, but in general, they want to show off their house and they want to brag about you. So if you can, find a designer or a builder, and you get a few names, and then you find that those past clients are bragging about them. When you go through, 12 months of building a home, with a custom home builder, if you still like them at the end, that's saying a lot. Just that. So if you still like them and you're happy.
How long? What's the problem? How long should somebody? Nobody's asked that yet. You just kind of mentioned it. What's the? How long should you budget your time before you get concept to completion?
Yeah, I would say that the day that you decide that you're going to start this process, I would say about 18 months from the time you come to me and hire us to design your home to the day that you move in. I think 18 months is a comfortable number. Now you have to keep it moving. I mean, because you need 10 to 12 months, to build a custom home. So with us, we don't need 6 months to design your house, but you have to go through engineering, you have to go through permits. So I would say, that could be 3 of the 6 months right there. And then when you are going through the design process, you don't want to rush it. You don't want to drag it out to where things get stale. You want to keep it moving, but you don't have to make quick decisions. So when I present a plan to somebody, they're seeing it for the first time, and they're like, okay, this is great. What do we do next? I'm like, well, what you do next is you take this home and you just live in it in your head for a few days.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we just talked about some really big decisions here on something you're seeing for the first time.
Right.
You need to go home, talk about it without me in front of you, live in it a little bit. Think of your daily routine. Okay, I get up in the morning, I go into the bathroom. Let's look at my bathroom. Let's think about it. Now I go to the kitchen. Where is that in relation to my bedroom? What's my normal routine? Because you're still going to be the same person in that new house. And I think some people think that when they get their new house, they become a different person. But I remind people, you are still the same. You're still going to be the same person. Your likes and dislikes are still going to be the same.
Right. This isn't going to change you. It's only going to showcase who you are. I love the advice. great ideas. First, your top 3 great to do now, but now you're giving us even more things. Like make sure that they walk you through, handhold, do the permitting. I feel like your business is actually going to really start taking off as people change the way they live and realize that the houses that were built, not custom, the cookie cutter homes just don't cut it anymore. So such great advice. Steve, thank you so much for being on the show today. We'd love to have you back on Expert 35 one of these days.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. It's been a great experience, and I really appreciate it.
Guys, if you want to learn more about Steve, you want to get a custom home design, text Expert57. He'll do a consultation, walk you through the whole thing. He's going to do all the things he says you should look for. He's going to give you referrals, and I think you've had people call every single person on your list before. So, love the interview, love the ideas and the concepts. Thank you so much for your time today. We'll see you soon, Steve.
Thank you, Gabriel.
All right, guys, that was Steve from Expert35. We've got more things coming up next week. We're going to talk about our health. We're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about fitness and just really showing up for yourself. We're going to leave you guys with Steve's info so you guys can get out, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys for joining us on Expert35. We'll see you soon.